My name is Ruth Omondi. I work with the Open Society Initiative for Eastern Africa, and today I'm privileged to host Wairimu Munyinyi-Wahome, who is the Executive Director of Coalition on Violence Against Women. I also just needed to hear from her what COVAW is doing to ensure that women and girls are kept safe, even as we respond to the pandemic of COVID-19. So thank you so much, Wairimu, for finding time to join us. I'm really, really happy that you could find time to have this conversation with us.
Thank you, Ruth. So it is true that the current situation we are in, the lockdown as a result of COVID-19, has seen an increase in the number of GBV cases being reported. And I think one of the reasons for why that is because with a lot of people now working from home together and a lot of awareness around GBV and related information being shared, you have a lot more people speaking out. But also not to forget that with the lockdown has come issues of economic strain. A lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people are rarely together. People leave very early in the morning and come back much later in the evening. Now they are forced to hang around together. And with the frustrations that come with either the lack of an income or diminished income, the only way people know how to release their stress, unfortunately, for some people, is to vent out their anger and frustration on others. And that is why we are experiencing cases of domestic violence. We have hardly come across any case of gender-based violence that has started during this particular period. The survivors will tell you that this violence has been happening in their homes. It has only become worse now with the lockdown. And I'm saying this because I'd like people to understand that, normally violence, when not contained, becomes a habit and a behavior for perpetrators. And that is why it is so important that beyond asking survivors to speak up and to report, we have ready systems and structures to support them access justice and any health care that they might require. There was a lot of highlighting of GBV cases in Kenya, but also in other parts of the world globally, and it was actually referred to as a shadow pandemic. It was said, even as COVID-19 ravages the world, we also have another pandemic that is probably not being given the attention that is due to it, and that is GBV, and it's a shadow pandemic. Now, my concern is that it might just remain in the shadows. So there has been a lot of good efforts, mostly by non-governmental organizations, to provide support in terms of intervening. But we also know that there are some responsibilities that are entirely the responsibility of governments. So how are law enforcement agencies responding in terms of support, in terms of mitigating, and in terms of supporting GBV survivors? How are our courts doing? Also recognizing that, courts also had to shut down. They've been operating virtually, but we also know that justice delayed is justice denied. Because survivors will tell us, but what is the likelihood that I will get justice? I only want to heal and move on.
Yeah, now, when you look at the situation of GBV in the context of, COVID-19, and when you look back at, I remember you have talked a bit about, us being caught flat-footed. When you look back at our response as, as a country, where do you think we missed the point?
Where we are missing it, Ruth, is in the way we do development, okay? Development is supposed to be sustainable and it's supposed to encompass everything. If you look at the SDG goals, and then you look at what most countries have prioritized as important, and therefore that is where they are doing most of their investment, you will realize that SDG goals related to GBV, the gender equality, SDG 5, and related SDGs, for that caters for education, and health-related SDG are not receiving as much attention and priority. So when it comes to those issues, then we tend to react, and that is how we are caught flat-footed, because we are reacting without the necessary foundation. We have not laid a foundation that allows us to top our game when we have an emergency. And I keep saying, when countries do not lay strong foundations to address gender equality and gender-based violence in normal times, during normal development processes, when they have an emergency, whatever little they have been able to do collapses, and then it looks like we are starting from zero. So half the work that should have been done is not going to be realized even now. It should have been done much earlier. If we truly recognize women as equal citizens, and if we truly consider them as important resources even for our economic development, I mean, in most countries we are more than 50% youth, and we contribute to the economy formally or informally significantly, very significantly. Now, if you do not take care of that particular category of your population as a country by making sure that they can function safely and productively, then you end up in a situation like we have ended up in during this COVID-19, completely unprepared for mitigating cases of gender-based violence.
I want to take you back to an issue you mentioned about persons with intellectual disabilities, that you have, that's a category of people you have been focusing on because of the way in which gender-based violence affects them. I just wanted you to tell me a bit about what the situation looks like for them and how you are responding to that.
The dynamics of persons with intellectual challenges requires a lot of understanding and attention, because most of the time their caregivers or their parents or their guardians are not able to engage in economic activities fully, because the amount of care or the demands that come with taking care of a woman or a girl with intellectual challenges is very high. It's demanding. Half the time, most of the caretakers are normally relatives, because a lot of the other people out there do not necessarily have the skills or the patience and understanding to take care of persons with intellectual challenges. That, coupled with the misperceptions and the myths and the stereotypes around persons with intellectual challenges. Now, from our experiences with the women and girls and with intellectual challenges that we work with, we feel that we wish there was a more targeted intervention for persons with disabilities and factoring in persons with with intellectual challenges. Now, the other thing we have found, unfortunately, is the cases of defilement for especially girls with intellectual challenges have also gone up. Remember, they are locked down at home, and unfortunately, we have people that are taking advantage of the situation, being at home with these girls, and they are violating them.
When you look into the future, based on the experience you have had now, how is the situation likely to look like for women and girls who are caught up in this particular situation?
In as much as awareness raising can be done and support in terms of reporting cases can be done, provision of health services and psychosocial support can be done by non-state actors in the long term for sustainability purposes. These are also interventions that need to be vested within government structures, and especially the law enforcement and the access to justice component. If that is not enhanced, and we have a judiciary in Kenya that is very cognizant of that and has even spoken about it, issues of gender-based violence during this particular period of COVID-19. Now, if that does not change, we will always have half-baked interventions, okay? Because there is only so much we can do as COVAW, for example. There are stages where our level of influence diminishes, and that requires political goodwill and action for the entire process to be completed. So if it changes, then the women and girls of Kenya have a bright future. If it does not change, then we are looking at a gloomy future. people do not flourish or thrive in unsafe environments. Let us not deceive ourselves. That is when you see instances of increases in teenage pregnancies because of, exploitation. That is when you see people unable to work or be productive because they fear being defiled. We have market women who will deliberately close early because the markets are dark, for example, or because the way to their home is not safe, so they need to leave early and therefore forgo an economic opportunity. That is why I keep saying it's a development issue that needs to be looked at very comprehensively.
Thank you so much, Wairimu, for finding time to have this conversation with us. And thank you so much for what you always do. Thank you, and wishing you the very best.
And so thank you. Thank you very much, Rob.